Hello, and welcome to Ms. PM Reads Christian Content, where we are continuing in All's for the Best by T.S. Arthur. In our last video, we met two new characters at a dance or a social, Miss Harvey wearing diamonds and Miss Gardner wearing a small pin with pearls. And there was a discussion between Mr. Wilkins and another gentleman about what diamonds and what gold and silver and pearls and what all the elements mean in the natural world and how that translates to personality. And Mr. Wilkins decided he was not impressed with Miss Harvey. Okay, so now we are in chapter 4, Not as a Child. I do not know how that may be, said the mother, lifting her head, looking through almost blinding tears into the face of her friend. The poet may be right, and not as a child shall I again behold him, but the thoughts bring no comfort. I have lost my child, and my heart looks eagerly forward to a reunion with him in heaven, to the blessed hour when I shall again hold him in my arms. There's a bug. As a babe? Oh, yes, as a darling babe, pure and beautiful as a cherub. But would you have him linger in babyhood forever? Asked the friend. The mother did not reply. Did you expect him always to remain a child here? Would perpetual infancy have satisfied your maternal heart? Had you not already begun to look forward to the period when intellectual manhood would come with its crowning honors? It is true, sighed the mother. As it would have been, so it will be there. Here, the growth of his body would have been parallel, if I may so speak, with the growth of his mind. The natural and the visible would have developed in harmony with the spiritual and the invisible. Your child would have grown to manhood intellectually as well as bodily, and you would not have had it otherwise. Growth, development, the going on to perfection are the laws of life, and are more emphatically so as appertaining to the life of the human soul. That life, in all its high activities, burns still in the soul of your lost darling. He will grow in the world of angelic spirits to which our Father has removed him, up to the stature of an angel, a glorified form of intelligence and wisdom. He cannot linger in feeble babyhood, in the innocence of simple ignorance, but must advance with the heavenly cycles of changing and renewing states. And this is all the comfort you bring to my yearning heart, said the mother. My darling, if all you say be true, is lost to me forever. He was not yours, but God's. The friend spoke softly, yet with firm utterance. He was mine to love, replied the bereaved one, and your love would confer upon its precious object the richest blessings. Dear friend, lift your thoughts a little way above the clouds that sorrow has gathered around your heart, and let perception come into an atmosphere radiant with light from the sun of truth. Sun, S-U-N. Think of your child as destined to become in the better world to which God has removed him, a wise and loving angel. Picture to your imagination the higher happiness, springing from higher capacities and higher uses, which must crown the angelic life. Doing this and loving your lost darling, I know that you cannot ask for him a perpetual babyhood in heaven. I will ask nothing for him but what our Father pleases to give, said the mother in calmer tones. My love is selfish, I know. I call that babe mine, mine in the broadest sense. Yet he was God's, as every other creature is, one of the stones in his living temple, one of the members of his kingdom. It does not comfort me in my great sorrow to think that, as a child, I shall not again behold him, but rays of new light are streaming into my mind, and I see things in new aspects and new relations. Out of this deep affliction, good will rise. Just as certainly, added the friend, as the sun shines and the dew falls, it will be better for you and better for the child. To both will come a resurrection into higher and purer life. And that's the end of that chapter. That's an interesting, just kind of stuck in there little story of grief. Okay, so chapter 5, Angels in the Heart. The heart is full of guest chambers that are never empty. And as the heart is the seat of life, these guests are continually acting upon the life, either for good or evil, according to their quality. As the guests are, so are our states of life, tranquil and happy if good, disturbed and miserable if evil. We may choose our own guests if we are wise. None can open the door and come in unless we give consent, as always provided that we keep watch and ward. If we leave wide open the doors of our houses or neglect to fasten them in the night season, thieves and robbers will enter and despoil us at will. So if we leave the heart, nope, wait a minute, at will. So if we leave, there we go. Sorry, I lost my spot. If we leave the heart unguarded, enemies will come in. I did that. But if we leave the door only to good affections, which are guests, then we shall dwell in peace and safety. We have all opened the door for enemies, or let them enter through unguarded portals. They are in all the heart's guests' chambers. They possess the very citadel of life, and the measure of their possession is the measure of our unhappiness. This is an interesting concept. Markland, new character, was an unhappy man, and yet of this world's goods after which he had striven, he had an abundance. Wealth, honor among men, luxury, these were presented in his mind as things to be most desired, and he reached after them with an ardor that broke down all impediments. Success answered to effort with almost unerring certainty. So he was full of wealth and honors, but for all this, Markland was unhappy. There were enemies in the house of his life, troublesome guests in the guest chambers of his heart, who were forever disturbing, if not wounding him, with their strifes and discords. Some of these he had admitted, himself holding open the door. Others had come in by stealth while the entrance was all unguarded. Envy was one of these guests, and she gave him no peace. He could not bear that another should stand above him in anything. A certain pew in the church he attended was regarded as most desirable. He must have that pew at any cost. So when the annual choice of pews was sold at auction, he overbid all contestants and secured its occupancy. For all the preceding year, he had failed to enjoy the Sabbath services because another family had a pew regarded as better situated than his. And now he enjoyed these services as little, through annoyance at having given so large a price for the right choice that people smiled when they heard the sum named. He had paid too dear for the privilege, and this fact took away enjoyment. Envy tormented him in 100 different ways. He could not enjoy his friend's exquisite statuary or paintings because of a secret intimation in his heart that his friend was honored above him in their possession. Twice he had sold almost palatial residences because their architectural attractions were thrown into a shade by dwellings of later construction. Thousands of dollars each year this troublesome guest cost him, and yet she would never let him be at ease. At every feast of life, she dashed his cup with bitterness and robbed the choicest viands of their zest. He did not enjoy the fame of an author, an orator, an artist, a man of science, a general, or any who held the world's admiring gaze. For while they stood in the sunlight, he felt cast in the shade. So the guest, envy, warmed and nourished his heart, proved a tormentor. She gave him neither rest nor peace. Distraction, twin sister of envy, was all the while pointing out defects in friends and neighbors. He saw their faults and hard peculiarities, but rarely their good qualities. Then doubt and distrust crept in through the unguarded door. And soon after their entrance, Markland began to think uneasily of the future, to fear lest the foundations of worldly prosperity were not sure. These troublesome guests were busiest in the right season, haunting his mind with strange pictures of disasters and with suggestions touching the arbitrary power of God, whom he feared when he thought of him was present. That doesn't make sense. And with suggestions touching the arbitrary power of God, whom he feared when the thought of him was present. There we go. But did not love. Whom he will, he setteth up, and whom he will, he casteth down. Doubt and distrust revived this morning in his memory, and seeing that it gave his heart a throb of pain, they set it close to his eyes, so that for a time he could see nothing else. Thus, night after night, these guests troubled his peace, often driving slumber from his eyes until the late morning watches. If there had been in his heart that true faith in God, which believes in him as doing all things well, doubt and distrust might never have gained an entrance. But he had trusted in himself, had believed himself equal to the task of creating his own prosperity, and had been, in common phrase, the architect of his own fortunes. And now, just as he was pluming himself on success, in crept doubt and distrust with their alarming suggestions, and he was unable to cast them out. Affections, whether good or evil, are social in their character and obey social laws. They do not like to dwell alone, and therefore seek congenial friendships. They draw to themselves companies of like quality and are not satisfied until they rule a man as to all the powers of his mind. In the case of Markland, envy made room for her twin sister, detraction. Ill will, jealousy, unkindness, and teeming brood of their malevolent kindred crowded into his heart, possessing its chambers, ere a warning reached him of their approach. Is there rest or peace for a man with such guests in his bosom? And we're going to stop there. That's a good question. Boy, that's a hard section right there, between the loss of a child and now evil guests in your heart. Ooh, okay. I hope you have a blessed day. And I will see you next time when we find out how Markland fares. All right. Have a great day.